Hi everyone, welcome to WeTV. This is Chris and I'm very happy to see you today because today we have another I Can Make. And you know we always have so much fun when we make things together. So what do you think we're going to make today? Well, I'm glad you asked. We are going to make, ooh, look at that. What is that? Well, that is an apple pie. Yes, we are going to make an apple pie because it's November and November is the month of Thanksgiving, and one of my favorite Thanksgiving treats is apple pie. So what do we need to make an apple pie? Let's take a look. We need apples, of course. And we're going to use some cinnamon. I love cinnamon. You don't really need the cinnamon, but it's traditional. We're also going to use some sugar. You do need the sugar. You can change how much sugar you use. And we're going to use some olive oil. Already getting hungry. We're going to need flour. And we're going to need a little salt. What else? Butter. The butter's pretty important. And water. The water is very important. Okay, and do we need any special tools? Well, we're going to need a pie pan. And a pie pan is just usually a round pan that you use to bake pies. Most pie pans are 9 inches in diameter and usually about 1.5 or 2 inches tall. And that gives you a nice shape of a pie. And it's actually good to get that size pie pan because most pie recipes are made for that size pie pan. If you have a bigger pie pan, you have to change the recipe. And if you have a smaller pie pan, you have to change the recipe. So always read your recipe and know what size pie pan should you use. Okay? Great. Well, let's take a look at our steps. First, we're going to make our dough. So first we're going to mix 2.5 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons sugar, 3/4 cups of cold butter. We're going to cut that butter into smaller pieces, and then we're going to use 1/2 cup of butter that is already soft. And the reason we do that is because we want the cold butter to actually stay solid in the dough, and that way it will melt while it's being baked. It will have a better effect that way. And we're also going to use a little water. We're going to add as much water as we need, and we're just going to use a little, and if we need more, we'll add a little until we've got the right amount. Okay? Now, we're also going to slice 2 apples, and we're going to put them in a pot or a pan with 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1 cup of sugar, and 1.5 cups of water. We're essentially going to make an apple cinnamon syrup. Okay, and we're going to cook those apples down until the water evaporates, and then we're going to take that out and put it in a bowl. That's going to be our filling. Okay, we will roll half the dough into a ball, and then we're going to put it flat and put it in the pie pan. Once we've got it in the pie pan, we want to put aluminum foil over the crust that we've just put in there, and then we're going to fill it with some dry beans, and that's going to hold the crust down and keep it in that shape while we bake it, because we don't want it to change its shape while we're baking it. The bottom of the crust should be flat. That's what we're going to do with the beans. And then we're going to bake it at 175 degrees for 20 minutes. After that, we can take the beans out, and then we can bake it for another 10 minutes. Taking the beans out will let the crust get a little bit more brown and crisp when we bake it the other 10 minutes. Next, we can put 1 more apple into the pie filling, mix that in, and then put that into the pie shell that we've just baked. And last, we're going to put the other half of the dough on top. So we're going to have a dough on the bottom, a crust on the bottom, and a crust on the top. Okay? And we will bake that at 175 degrees for 15 and 20 minutes until the top is nice and brown, and then we're ready. I know it sounds like a lot, and it is a little time consuming. However, I can guarantee this is going to be fun and it's going to be delicious. So, are you ready? Let's bake! . All right, we've got our flour, and now we need to add some sugar. Now we're going to cut up our butter to put in here. So I've got my butter. It's very cold. Make sure you wash your hands before you start baking. And you know what? Just make sure you wash your hands a lot. You should wash your hands often. Clean hands are healthy hands. Now, when I found this recipe, it called for shortening, which is similar to butter, and you can actually substitute butter for shortening in equal amounts, and that's what I did. Well, it's possible I have too much butter, and it's possible that just the butter is too damn cold to actually mix in correctly. So, we're waiting again. So now my dough is pretty much ready, and I've got half of it here in this ball. And now we're going to turn this into, oh, that might be more than I need, but let's see. Try to roll this out a little. Oh, it doesn't want to roll. So remember, when you're rolling things, if they don't want to roll, you just need to add a little bit more flour to help things along. So I should have sprinkled the board with flour before I started, like we did before. Hope you guys remember that one. This is more dough than I need. It's also a good idea to flour your rolling pin before you get started, which I didn't do. All right, this is going better. And you don't want this dough to be super thin. It needs to have some thickness to it. The most important thing is it needs to cover the pan. So there's my pie pan, and because I didn't flour the board, it's very sticky. Sometimes you just need to improvise. Improvise means you just think on your feet and you do what needs to be done, make things work. Okay, so the pie isn't going to have a nice even crust, which I'm a little sad about, but it's going to be okay. Now we're going to cover this with aluminum foil. And I really want to push the aluminum foil into the shape of the pie because I want to be sure to keep the pie to keep its shape. All right. Now I need to add my beans to hold the aluminum foil in place. Now this is ready to go into the oven, and we're going to bake it for 20 minutes, and then we take the beans out and we'll bake it for another 10 minutes. So let's put this in the oven. Let's get going with our apples. I love apples. You don't need to cut up your apples too small because we're cooking them. They're going to be soft. They'll be easy to eat and easy to break up with a fork. So our apples, we're going to add our water. Going to add our sugar and our cinnamon and let it cook. My apples are ready. Let's put those in a bowl. Now I'm going to cut up another apple and add it here so that we're ready for with our pie filling when the pie crust has been baked. We're going to slice up one more apple, and the reason we have this apple is it won't be as cooked as the other ones. The other one should be pretty soft, but having this last apple that won't be as cooked, it will have more firmness, it will be a little harder, and it will give texture to our apple pie. Because these pieces will not be as cooked as the other ones, I'm making them a little smaller so they'll be more bite-sized. All right, let's put them in our bowl. And now I want to mix them in with the cooked apples and the syrup. Now we just need to wait for our pie crust. Our crust has finished the first bake, so now I'm going to take the aluminum foil and carefully lift it out and hopefully not spill the beans. Spill the beans. Okay, and now we're going to put it back in and let it brown everywhere. So we're going to bake it for another 10 minutes. As you can see, our pie crust is looking great. It just came out of the oven, and now we're going to fill it with the filling that we already prepared. You want to spread your filling out. Don't let it have a lot of filling in one place and not so much filling in another place. Okay, now I just need to put the top crust on. So let's prepare that. Okay, I'm not going to make the mistake I made last time. I'm going to put some flour down on the board. You know, I just love doing this stuff because it's fun. I'm not a professional cook or chef, not by any stretch of the imagination. Now we're going to try and make a really pretty lattice pattern, and to do that we're going to cut this into strips. I'll show you what I mean. So first we need to roll it out. This time we really need to roll it out. So I'm going to take some time with this, and I might actually have more dough than I need. Now like I say, we want to make this into strips, so I'm going to cut it across this part because that's where it's the biggest. And the strips don't have to be perfectly even. This is probably the hardest part. And you don't have to do it exactly like this. Run some this way and run some that way. If we put that back in the oven, that part will be much darker than the rest. So there we go. I'm very happy with that. I think it looks beautiful. I'm going to put it back in the oven for about 15 minutes or so until this is a nice golden brown, and then we're ready to eat pie. Take a look at this pie. I think it came out so beautifully. I mean, it's not perfect, but wow, I am so happy with it. I think my great-grandmother would like this pie, and my great-grandmother was an expert at baking pies. She actually did that to make money when she was very old. And man, it smells great. I can't wait for this thing to cool down and dig in. So yeah, I'm gonna get going, and I'll see you next time on WeTV. Goodbye, everyone.